Were you taught that tion was a suffix? Me too. I went 45 years of my life thinking that it was. Imagine the day I found out it wasn't. Looking back, I remember feeling awe, dismay, and then betrayal. It was very similar to going through the 5 stages of grief, but I skipped a few of the stages. So many thoughts were running through my head as I went on a 3-day rant. I paced, wondered out loud, and shared my discovery with everyone around me, whether they wanted to hear it or not. I just couldn't believe that something so obvious to me now was hidden from my entire educational and occupational career. Of course, then I wondered what else I didn't know. This tion discovery was my epiphany moment, when I went from dipping a toe into the orthographic waters to plunging in with both feet. My appetite for this work using structured word inquiry became insatiable. I was finally getting answers to my long-standing questions. The more I learned, the more I realized that all the missing pieces from literacy intervention and instruction were right here, and I wanted to know everything all at once. But was kindly mentored and led to understand that this body of work involves lifelong learning, and that taking things one epiphany at a time was best. But let's look at what I learned that changed my career. It made me feel confident about calling myself a literacy specialist. The word we looked at in the workshop was action. We were asked to find the base, which we did relatively quickly because ACT is a common free base. But the first time you go through this analysis, you realize that the T belongs to the base. tion is not a suffix at all. I asked my dad about this, as he was a retired teacher and librarian, and he told me that tion was taught as an attempt to make it easier for kids to learn to read. I understood the good intentions, but disagreed that it made anything easier. I learned enough at that point in my journey to see that it would lead to serious confusion and overload for children who didn't learn to read and spell easily. And maybe that was the point, teaching most kids to learn to read in public school. It obviously hadn't hurt me at all. But I was interested in the 10 to 20% of the children in the studies that I had read over the previous decade who didn't respond to phonics-based or whole language-based instruction. The details matter to these children. I found in the years since that children with dyslexia, language disorders, intellectual differences, and autism often don't learn with either of those approaches, but they do learn to read and spell to the best of their ability when you show them how the writing system works using SWI. Let's take a closer look at ACT-ION. What does it mean? The base ACT has a sense of a performing, a doing. How is it built? ACT-ION is rewritten as ACT-ION. What are the relatives? React, enact, acting, acted, active, for starters. What's the function of each letter? A spells ah, C spells k, T spells sh, I doesn't spell a phoneme, O spells N spells n. You might be wondering about the single grapheme T spelling sh. Sh is actually the most common pronunciation of T. In action, the I is marking the T sh. French influenced the spelling before it passed into English, and the T was palatalized. That's a fancy way of saying it was pronounced further back on the palate rather than right behind our teeth. When you understand the meaning and structure, you can then make sense of the sounds or phonology. I hope you feel more enlightened about the ION suffix. There's more to know, but let me leave you with a few other spellings to ponder.